What is going on, guys? Welcome back. Commentary for you. Always interested in how people outside of our community look at Madden, look at the ratings. So Nate Davis over at USA Today put together these points, and I want to talk about a couple of them together. I want to start off here, actually, number 6. He talks about the rookies coming in. Nelson, the top-rated rookie, Colts guard, 83 overall. Running back, Shaquan Barkley, 82 overall. And he thinks that it's acceptable that players who come in rated highly, drafted highly, are going to have a higher overall rating because obviously you need them to start, you want them to be serviceable, but he notes that it's less reasonable when you look at players like Deshaun Watson, who, I mean, if you don't remember, was the story of the NFL until he got injured last year, and Kirk Cousins, who, yes, he's bounced around, but he's overcame a lot, earned his way as a starter, and I think to many of us proven he is capable of being a starter, if not a franchise quarterback, also get an 82. And I think it's interesting when we look at this, you have to understand they're trying to keep teams in context with each other as far as their best players, but also imperative to each other in the league who the best players are. So when he talks about the context of 92, which is the first point here, he mentions Russell Wilson and Todd Gurley. Both have a 92 rating. Wilson, the third-rated quarterback in the game, only behind Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, who were both 99s. He produced 80% of the Seattle's offense last year, and Gurley, tied for third among running backs behind Le'Veon Bell, David Johnson, is the reigning offensive player of the year, led the NFL in yards from scrimmage and touchdowns. And to that point, you see that 92 overall being a high level with only 2 players above them in each position, but then you also look at the Eagle center Jason Kelce and Buffalo defensive back Micah Hyde, both being that same number. And he's actually kind of assessing value of the player overall, I think, in my opinion, as the overall value, which seems logical, right? But when you look at it this way, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense the way these ratings are done. And one final point, it's in the middle, and maybe it speaks to how he doesn't follow Madden with how kind of scattered this is in terms of the outline. But he talks about the injury rating. Now, we all know the injury rating is separate attribute in Madden, but he doesn't understand why it isn't incorporated into the overall. This is an interesting point. He talks about David Johnson, 93 overall, played 1 game last year. Aaron Rodgers, we all know, played more than that, but he missed 9 games with an injury. J.J. Watt has missed 16 of the last 24 regular season games. He's a 98 overall. Why isn't the injury rating factoring into the overall rating? Because truly that is the worth of a player. And what I was immediately brought back to when reading this was Bob Sanders. Bob Sanders, a great safety. I mean, literally won the Colts a Super Bowl and playoff games. Made a complete difference on a team, but had no value because he could not stay healthy in how he played. And that's not to say that how Johnson runs or Rodgers throws or Watt rushes impacts how they actually stay healthy. It really doesn't the same way Bob Sanders did, but Bob Sanders didn't get signed by teams because his injuries spoke for themselves, and you knew he was going to be a limited time proposition. I'm not putting these 3 players in that same boat by any stretch of the imagination, but it's interesting that it doesn't have more of an impact when in reality it's something that really does focus on how teams deal with players, not just season to season, but in free agency as well. Love to know your thoughts on this. Appreciate you checking out. You know that I'll be back in the week with more commentary.